welcome to Choices Global, a production of First Assembly of God, Worthmanville, Georgetown, Guyana. As we continue to cultivate conversations that are pertinent to nation building, our topic for today is Growing Guyana's Economy, Youth Engagement. Today we are recording in the hilly sand and clay belt region of Guyana. And our panelists are, starting from my right, Shumar Thomas, an electrical engineer by profession and a manager of 3 businesses, 2 of which he owns. Adiel Rochevelle, an actuarial analyst and a graduate from the University of Guyana and the University of the West Indies. Martin Messiah, a digital consultant with a global footprint. Joel Lee, a marketing manager who has a passion for national development. And LaShonda Kelman, a final year medicine student at the University of Guyana. And last but not least, your moderator, Samantha Edwards. Our topic today, it stems from the World Bank's report which indicated that Guyana is projected for a 25% GDP growth rate, which is higher than most of the countries in the rest of the world. So as we start off today's discussion, panelists, tell me, do you think there are indicators that would suggest that our youths are not adequately catered for or captured in the respect of education or training in our country? Any one of you can start.
Yes.
Adia, go right ahead.
There actually is something that is used to calculate that, and it's called the NEET rate, and it calculates those individuals who are not in education, employment, or training. And since we're speaking about specifically youth, the Bureau of Statistics, they would have issued a report in May 2021, and they would have reported what the NEET rate for Guyana was among the youths. And they actually broke it down according to the different proportions. They split it into gender and geography. So what was notable on that report was that there were women. Women were in a higher proportion than men when it came to the NEET rate. And as expected, the rural areas had a higher NEET rate as well. So, yeah, that's the indicator.
Before any of you jump in, are we saying that our youths who do not reside in the city are more at a disadvantage with being captured for training and education?
Yes, that is what it's saying. Yes.
Wow. LaShonda?
Adding to what Ariel said, we also noted that when we compared the 2020 to 2021 figures, the disparity between gender as well as the geography increased. We found that there was a higher percentage of women who fell in the NEET category as well as those in the rural areas, whereas the men and those in the urban areas, there was a decrease in percentage of those in that category. The question is not just how these indicators show the proper distribution of resources so that we could have adequately trained youths and employed youth as well, but also how we can use these resources for these youths to benefit.
I'm really glad that I'm glad that we know these indicators. We're getting to learn about these indicators because, like in economics, it helps you to not only make statements like, the economy is going faster or slower, but it helps you to know specifically where or how resources could be or should be deployed in order to transform the landscape. So when it comes to youth engagement, youth capital, human resources, that kind of stuff for young people, by understanding the data, our leaders, whether it be governmental leaders, private sector leaders, or persons from civil society like like us, it helps us to understand the kind of initiatives that we should do and how we should shape those sorts of initiatives.
Well, our GDP growth, what that has been forecast by the World Bank, takes into consideration many factors, and let's not, try to be naive, but we know all of this is coming from the oil buzz in Guyana. And in order for us to really benefit from that and for it to materialize in Guyana, we have to now really look at our development as a nation more holistically, not just in oil, but how does it really benefit all Guyanese? And we no longer have the luxury of separating ourselves as a people, but rather coming together now to really work together and to move the country forward. It's imperative that we start to think that way because a partnership is the only way that we'll be able to really and truly benefit from it. Because we're a country that we really do not understand the oil and gas sector. Barring what we are hearing in the media, the truth of the matter is we are children in this regard. And people who are prepared long before us are coming to our country, and we now have to fast track our learning. So everything in Guyana now has to take a position where we have to defend and also develop what is ours and to be a part of the process.
And what I like about that, Joel, is that you're highlighting an important point about youth development and youth engagement and the role that it plays when it comes to national transformation, national advancement. And the beautiful thing about this also is by targeting young people, you're targeting the group that is most ready for change when it comes to their ability to learn, their ability to grow, and maybe even their willingness. Like I have a couple of friends who've chosen unique paths for their own personal development, and it's all about them being able to identify different trends, them being able to identify, you know what, maybe I should pursue a different sort of certification than what most persons are going to do because of the new environment that's there, you know. And I interact with some of these people almost every day, different people I interact with, and you're seeing them taking paths that literally did not exist in Guyana at the scale that they are today. It didn't exist 5 years ago. So targeting those groups is important. And also with the rural environment, I think there's also a great opportunity for distance learning opportunities, distance training programs, virtual training programs, because there's a need for infrastructure in these different communities when it comes to delivering high quality education, high quality training, and it's a great platform for us to go out there and develop our nation as a whole.
Martin, before anyone else jumps in, I like that you brought in the technology creating distance learning, because I was thinking in my mind that if our rural youths are not being captured, what are some possible solutions? So hearing you say that triggered that, and if we can spend a little more time and if you can share with me what are some solutions that can help. And as we ponder on that, Lashonda mentioned also, if I heard you correct, that the female gender, the girls, they are more disenfranchised. And for the benefit of our viewers, when we say NEET, we're speaking about youths not in employment, education, or training, just for some emphasis. So help us understand, why do you think females are more at a disadvantage, and also what do you think are some possible solutions to get youths more involved or to benefit more, because we now have the resources with the influx of oil revenue. Your thoughts, anybody can go.
Well, thinking about why females will be more disenfranchised, one of the first things that comes to mind is the culture. At times we have a culture where we believe that the women should be at home, taking care of the family. They should be doing cooking, cleaning, being a housewife. And that is not a bad thing. Some people, their goal is to be a housewife, and that's okay. But I think that we should redefine the term housewife to not only include cooking, cleaning, taking care of the child, but being an entrepreneur, selling at a shop, or you could start your own business. And that is one of the main things I find with young women. As soon as they reach a certain age, they look quickly to get a husband to settle it down, and they, forget about any other aspirations, any other academic aspirations, any other entrepreneurship aspirations. And so it is my hope that with this oil and gas boom that we find more and more young women just stepping out. You don't have to abandon your family. You don't have to abandon your spouse. You don't have to abandon your friends. You don't have to abandon your church or whatever local activity you're involved in. It's just expanding your horizon and spreading your wings.
Unfortunately, these metrics that we use as it relates to Guyana, they're really doing injustice to women. Because in my experience, I have found that women predominantly run a lot of major companies in Guyana. The man might just be the front,
Exactly. Say
but
that a little louder.
the man might be the front, but there are women that are they're up the operations. They know it like the back of their hands, and it's all across Guyana. And I've seen that. I went to one of our business, my business associates, and for the first time, and we were talking and so forth, and with me interacting with him, I'm noticing that yes, he's talking with me, but the wife is dealing with the customers. She's dealing with their suppliers and all that, and this is something I've seen all across Guyana. So women, even though we have these things that measure things, the reality on the ground is women are involved in the rural areas. Yes, we need to now move education into those areas because, like you rightly said, coming from a community of farmers where the men are seen to go out and the women stay home, and now to bridge that gap in terms of it's a change in the way they think. So we now have to be able to how do we deal with that, because it's all well and good for us to go and say, okay, yes, oil come in. So how do I deal with that on the ground? All I know is that I take care of my chair. My husband was the back. So where's the back? The back dam is now in the Atlantic, so to speak.
Yes.
So how do we bridge that gap in terms of he's now further away, and how can I get involved in that process?
And to add to what Joel was saying, of women being so dominant in a lot of these business. One of the businesses in which I manage is along the lines of fiber installation, which is technical. Now, as much as this industry is predominantly male oriented, males are the ones who facilitate it. The operations within that sphere are managed mainly by women. The man might be the owner or the face, but the day-to-day operations, ensuring targets are met, ensuring that everything is covered, are managed by women.
Martin, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I think it was you who mentioned that the youths are ready for the change. Do you think that our youths are ready?
I mean,
Anyone can chime in after Martin.
after Martin. That's a month. So I think that ready is an interesting word. I said ready in a specific context, as in if they're given the resources that they need in order to tap into the different economic activities that are going on, if they're given the resources to access the academic, the educational, or even the vocational training opportunities, they're going to rise and they're going to be able to grow and develop. So in that context, I say the youths are ready, and I could even say that speaking with and interacting with them face to face, these are persons that many of the young people I interact with, they are waiting for something that's going to work for them, and they're trying different things. And what's interesting is that there has been a shift. I was talking with a friend last night, and what he was telling me is that there are new institutions that are coming to Guyana, or that are being developed, or some that are even scaling up their operations because of how the nature of training is going to be changing in Guyana. And some students, instead of just going to university might be there for the engineers, but there's going to be other unique forms of training for persons who are skilled. For example, in things like welding, things like woodworking. Many of these other technical sectors, or even like the technical sector that Shamar is involved in, these young people are ready, and if they have the opportunity. But the other thing I'll highlight is that there are also a few barriers. The first barrier to that might be the cost of the training, because for the specific, when you become super specialized, sometimes the training programs, there are not many institutions that specialize in delivering certified programs, and that could be a barrier for them. Another barrier is access to simple technology, or even complex technology, because it's not just about persons who are going to be able to drive cars, to do logistics. It's going to be about the persons that are going to be driving the next set of 18-wheeler trucks, because that's a different training. Persons that are going to be driving what they call in the interior the Charlies. It's going to be talking about persons who are going to be trained to operate the new sets of drones, or the ROVs that are going to be at the bottom of the Atlantic. That's the ROVs are the ones that are going to be flying over, doing maybe surveys or different inspections. And it's a very exciting period. And I think once they're given the resources that they need, or they're at least given a path, like Adiel would highlight. Adiel, as many of you know, she took a very interesting path. She's a mathematician, a very specialized mathematician. And for her to go through that journey, it was a big learning curve, because it wasn't so much about her capacity to learn, it was about how do I move from point A to point B. And maybe Adele, you could share a bit more about that
On
on your path, because this is something that many young people are experiencing, because most of them know, after high school,
right.
maybe you go to university or you get a job. And
Yeah, and
and
especially since we're talking about youths not in education, like
yeah.
you choosing such a oh, hard, difficult path. Sorry to put it
It's a
that way.
it's a
Right.
unique and
It's a
beautiful
unique,
path.
it's beautiful, yes, but for a special group. And
Uh,
while Addie's thinking, Shamar would like to hear your thoughts also as a young entrepreneur. Do you think the youths are ready?
I
Right?
I believe they I believe they're ready, and piggybacking off of what Martin would have said, it's all based on the opportunity that they're offered, and not only waiting for someone to give a handout, as to say, but it's also how they position themselves to be able to receive these opportunities. Um, Quoting what Oprah Winfrey would have said, she said, "Luck is when preparation meets opportunity." And sometimes the preparational aspect of it is just you positioning yourself to receive the information. It's just you actually hearing what is going on out there, not just taking that, but to do your own research on it. And therein lies an opportunity for you. Therein you can see, hey, this is a problem and I have this solution to it. It will be unique to you. It will be mind blowing to others because they haven't thought about it. But in positioning yourself, knowing what is there, looking at all of the, especially with oil, this new boom for Guyana, there's so many opportunities there. So yes, I believe the youths are ready. All they need to do is position themselves.
You used a word that I'm not too comfortable with, but I would like to hear your perspectives. Shamar mentioned the youths not to say waiting on a handout. But in my mind, I'm thinking, should the government invest resources in our youth's education and training? It's not a handout, but it's part of their responsibility. What are your thoughts on that? How should it be viewed? Am I correct in thinking that, it should not be deemed that way, or it is a perspective of a handout, so to speak?
it's about the national strategy. When you're building a nation, like how Guyana is being built, many nations choose different paths, and one of the great paths that could be chosen would be to invest in accelerating the development of our human capital, which would be through training, through education. Because one of the things that I'm in the private sector when I operate, so something that stands out many times is, well, not many times. One something that really stood out before is that they're going to need, not want, not because it's cheaper, but because they don't have enough people in Guyana to really build out the kind of services that they need to be built out. They don't have enough people who could work on the kind of projects that mega projects they're going to be working on. So it's going to be a need when it comes to persons coming into the country. And this is not just persons coming in from maybe the US or from Canada. This is persons coming in from Asia, from Africa. And that is something that we could really take advantage of when it comes to developing the nation, and we would be best positioned to take advantage of that if we elevate the level at which our human capital operates at. So should they do it, it's one path that could be taken, and it's a path that I think could literally transform not only the economic landscape of Guyana, but also the cultural transformation of our country, the cultural makeup of our country.
So it's fair to say that our youths should look forward to our government providing us with the resources.
Our youths
Our
should.
youths, yes. Is it
It
fair?
is imperative for our government to engage the youths at that level, where our programs are designed with the future in mind. 40 years from now, not even 40 years from now, 10 years from now, the Guyana that we're in will no longer exist. And
True.
it's the young people that are 10, 15, 20, they're the ones that need to be the movers and shakers, a major part of that process. Because let's not fool ourselves. In the oil and gas sector, they say the corruption level that is there, we have never experienced. So we don't even know what it looks like, right? But I believe we have young people who have the capacity to not be involved in the bad side, but to make things bright and beautiful in Guyana. But in order for that to happen, everything that we do must now be with that vision in mind. For example, if we're doing a program where a young man could start a business and an entrepreneur and he gets a loan, we have to develop it in such a way, like how they do the incubators in Silicon Valley. And they're preparing young people to, okay, what's the next big thing? What's going to happen in oil? What can we do as Guyanese to shift the thinking in oil after we have been exposed to it? And now the young minds can say, okay, this is what used to work 20 years ago, but we could tweak this and we could make it even more, even make it better. We have the young people are here, they know what's going on. We just need to guide them in the right direction. So it's imperative, if we want to survive as quote unquote Guyanese, we have to engage the young people
And
in a significant way.
it would be a wonderful opportunity as well for the government to take advantage of the partnerships that will come out of this oil surge
Yep.
to capitalize on the knowledge of countries that would have been there before, like Trinidad. They're very good when it comes to industrialization.
Yep.
And we have the young people here ready, willing, and able to work. So it would be a good.
I want to add another factor to what we're talking, local content laws. Do you think it sufficiently protects our youth capital and creates opportunity for our youths in Guyana? Okay.
So the local content laws, they specifically ensure that Guyanese are the first preference in any transaction with the oil and gas sector. So if, for example, our current ExxonMobil decides that they were going to purchase, let's say, food, it would be a Guyanese company that would have preference over any other company. Now, I believe that when it comes to youth representation in that local content bill, I think more can be done in terms of how employees of these organizations employ youths. So, yes, you would want the experts from Trinidad and Tobago, from these other oil nations, and so forth. But also, you want to ensure that they don't just abandon our youths and put them to the wayside. We just don't want a Guyanese owned company, but we want the company to be run by Guyanese, by young Guyanese. And so, in tweaking the bill, it's not just only to say that, okay, 50% or 51% of this company, I should say, is Guyanese owned, but it also should have a proportion of the company, the employees within the company, be employed from the age range, in the case of the NET's parameter of 15 to 24.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on our local content?
I think it's a great first step, and I'm excited to see how intellectual property is going to evolve because this is one aspect of it's a tool that's being used to develop our nation. Local content is something that governments would create. It's a tool that they use to ensure that local businesses that are born in Guyana, that grow in Guyana, that are owned by Guyanese, it's a mechanism that is used to give them an opportunity to grow and develop in order to meet international demand, or to meet global demand so they could be globally competitive. And the beautiful part about it is that it's not only going to benefit Guyanese companies working in Guyana, but it's also going to help them to lay a framework that they might even be able to use to expand to other markets in the future once they learn within this safe space.
Okay. Shamara, I want to touch a little considering you are what our only proprietor. No,
My
I forgot
Yeah, no
Martin.
more, you can forget me once.
Yes.
My apologies, that tasty fish. Yes, our two proprietors then. Do you think that the laws adequately cater for your line of business, or how do you see yourself tapping into this oil and gas sector? I mean, you're in the food industry, and Shamar, you what? The electrical, and I know a little of the clothing for the curvy girls.
Um, well, for my business, it's more networking. Um, do I think the laws include us? Yes. To an extent, yes. Um, just as Rashonda would have said, Guyanese get first preference.
Okay.
When these companies come to build here, for instance, part of my business is doing the networking for companies. So as they build, once my business is rightfully positioned, because it's not just ensuring that you have the business, but ensure that you're compliant within the different industries. Therein lies me positioning myself to be able to, let's say, well, generate income. You can put it that way. But yes, I believe that they are the laws are in place too.
Okay, Martin.
Yeah, I think that I'm excited to see how advances within the industry, how they're going to cause the legal environment to evolve and change with it. But I think that as it stands, there's a interesting playing field for businesses within maybe the food and the food industry, also within the marketing industry. And now for the first time, I can maybe speak more for the marketing agency, for the marketing space. They are people now who have the resources that are interested in exploring new and more innovative and disruptive approaches to marketing. And I think that it's an interesting environment to be in right now.
Thank you.
I like the fact that you use the word disruption because it's something that young people are familiar with. We all like disruption, and
Really?
yeah, young people are into disruption, and one the key quote unquote icons of this new age is Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs encouraged us all initially to think differently, and it's important for us to think differently now as Guyanese, because what used to work before will no longer work, and we need to run really fast. We all have to become a Usain Bolt to catch up with what is coming. But I know with God's help, all things are possible. I know God has not forsaken us, and the fact that He has given us this opportunity at this time, it means that the Guyanese people are already in the world. They're already born, and it's just a matter of us identifying them and positioning them to take the country forward. So we're still in a good place, you
A
know,
good place.
a good place. Hope is not lost.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I think that also ties into the question that Martin was asking earlier about the path and how it was different. I think once you get the proper training and you are open to learning something, and regardless of how hard it is, because mommy always says the thing, something is always hard when you don't know, but if you make it your business to know, then it's easy. So I feel like once you have an open mind, and that goes into it as well, I feel like Guyanese can approach this as well with having an open mind. This is a new sector. We should listen to the experts and just capitalize on what knowledge they are willing to pass down to us and just take flight.
Okay, panelists. I do have a few more questions, but we are out of program time. So I just want to thank you all for braving nature, and it appears as though we might have some rain. But thank you very much for your thoughts and how you shared openly. Most definitely, we will have to continue our discourse on our next episode. So thank you to our viewers also for tuning in. Please remember to follow us at faogw.org and our YouTube channel at Choices Global. Until we reach again, remember to stay safe and see you next time on March 19, 2023.